When I first got into multi-rotors, I started on a 450 size tricopter. Later I built the F450 quadcopter, and then I moved on to some mini quads and mini tricopters. This is a ZMR 250 and this is an FPV 250. I like the 250 size a little better than the larger size simply because when you crash, the pieces are less likely to break, and usually what you do is you end up breaking propellers, and that's about it. Well, today I got this new frame. This is a Eachine Q200 carbon fiber quadcopter frame, and I just got it today, and I was going to open it up and do a little frame review of this. So this is the frame itself. It came wrapped in foam, and it looks like it's still in pretty good shape, and we'll go ahead and get this thing open and see what pieces are in here. Here it is all spread out. This is the lower plate, the middle plate where the motor's attached to, and the upper plate that provides a little bit of protection to your flight board. It also came with this Velcro strap to hold the battery on, I would assume, and 4 little bags of plastic mounting things, and some plastic screws, and it also came with some little rubber feet for the landing gear. Now, my first reaction when I see this is, wow, this is little and it is thin. Well, let's see how this measures up to something like an FPV250 here. And here we go. And remember, this is a 200 size quad. This one is a 250. So if I line up these two motors here, you can see how much more narrow it is than this. And also going to the back, yeah, they're still lined up. Going to the back, it's significantly shorter. Wow, this thing is really small. And you think you have a good idea of what a 200 size quad looks like, but until you hold it in your hands, you just don't get it. It is really small. I'll go ahead and measure the thickness of these plates. This is the very top plate, comes in about 1.14. Let's go for the middle plate. This one comes in about 1.17. And the lower plate comes in at 1.15. Before I get too far along, I'm going to take this middle plate before anything's attached to it, and I want to weigh this to see what it comes in at. It comes in about 17 grams, and I'll explain why I weighed this one independently of everything else in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing assembled, and we'll see what it looks like all put together. Here's the bottom plate assembled. These ends just have a screw that goes in the bottom, and the double hole one goes on here. These have an extension that comes on here because they are going to get this landing gear. The landing gear just slides on over top of this to provide a nice, comfortable landing for your quadcopter in the rough areas of your yard or driveway. Look at that. Look how nice that looks. For this next part, when you're going to attach the top plate onto this, you have 2 options that it gives you with the included pieces. You get the longer one, or you can get the shorter one for a little bit lower profile. And it has enough pieces for both of these sizes to put it together either way you want. So once you've decided on the long ones or the short ones, you put them into these holes right here in the middle, and these 2 holes back here. And you have to use the screws on the bottom so that they hold to the plate. Now the other 2 holes that are going to be used to hold the top plate onto here will actually go through here into the lower plate. So like into these ones here I'm talking about. So now the 2 bottom plates are put together. I got the 2 screws in each arm, and then you have to put these in before you start putting the top plate to the bottom plate, because there's not a very good way to access those screws from down below. And then these 2 different pegs with the pegs coming out the bottom went into the lower ones. The last piece is the top part of the frame, and it just screws right down to the top of all 6 of these screws. So here it is all completed with the top plate all screwed on. And like I said, these are the longer pieces up here. There's 6 of them, and these 2 in the middle are different than the other 4, and that's what these are for. They're a little bit shorter ones. There's a 4 for the outside and the 2 for middle ones. So I'm going to go ahead and measure how tall this whole thing is. This whole plate, from the top plate to the bottom plate, it comes in about 38.76 millimeters. And I'll get my scale out here, and I'm anxious to see how much this thing weighs. One other thing, don't forget to put this battery strap in on the lower plate before you put it together. It's not impossible to get through here, but it sure would have been a lot easier if I had put it on before I put the frame together. Anyway, here's my scale. I'll get it zeroed out in grams. and I'll go ahead and weigh this, and it comes in about 50 grams, and that includes the battery strap. Now, just for some comparative sake, I'm going to go ahead and show you this FPV250. Now, of course, this one is designed to be heavier and carry heavier motors, but we'll just weigh it anyway for comparison. And it's a 250 size frame. It comes in at 107.4, so it's about a little over twice as heavy as the Q200. From this point of view, you can really tell how much smaller this Q200 looks than this FPV250. Of course, it's smaller, it's 50 millimeters smaller, but even the motor mounts are just like night and day, you know, small and large. Now, the FPV250 is designed to hold 1806 motors, 2206 motors, where this one's mostly designed to hold your 1306 motors. Now, this one's going to run motors at 3100 kV in an ideal situation, just because it's smaller and going to be lighter. This one's going to want to run them at the 2300 or smaller if you were doing 4S. But anyway, 3100 kV motors for this. And some popular motors people have been using for it are DYS 1306 motors and the Sunny Sky 1306 motors. The reason I weighed the middle plate earlier is because I'm going to actually order a second one and glue it to this one so that the middle plate will be 2 millimeters thick. That'll raise the weight of the overall quad from 50 grams up to probably 67 grams, or plus or minus a couple, 67 grams. Now, it is going to add a little weight, but I'm going to try to counter that addition of weight by using ESCs that don't have BECs in them, and just power the flight board from a single BEC, and hopefully that'll be enough weight elimination that the doubling the middle plate won't be that big of an addition to it. And I think that'll give it enough rigidity out here to these motors to help it not break in the event of a crash, because I do plan on crashing. When you're flying a 250 size quadcopter, you're usually going to use a 3-cell battery like this one, a 1300 milliamp hour battery, or maybe a 1500 milliamp hour battery. But when you fly something smaller like the Q200 and you're using the 3100 kV motors, most of the time you want to start off using a 2-cell battery. And this is a 2-cell 0.95. This is 950 milliamp hours. And this thing is like the size of a stick of gum, and it is very light, especially when you compare it to the 3 cells, but of course this one's 1500, but it's still a lot lighter than the other ones. So here's a 2-cell battery strapped onto the bottom of this, and it's a little thick, but it's probably because of the Velcro I have on here. But in this, the way it is now, when it lands, it's going to actually land on the battery and not the landing gear. So I may have to pull this landing gear off and put some longer ones on to help protect the battery in the landing. Also, I think this can only run 4-inch propellers. Here's a 5-inch propeller, and yeah, it's sitting here in the middle. It's going to hit these middle standoffs here, and even up in the front, yeah, even the front is going to hit these little standoffs. Now, if you wanted to, you could probably move these back and drill your own holes in the top plate and the bottom plate, and you could probably run your 5-inch propellers on here, but that'd be a little bit of work, and I don't know, maybe I'll just try the 4-inch propellers. Because I also think if I'm going to fly 5-inch propellers, why am I just not flying a 250 that's designed for 5-inch or 5-inch propellers? Anyway, this has been a review of this Eachine Q200 frame. If you have any questions about it, please leave them in the comments, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. I'll have links to this in the About section of this video. And as always, thanks for watching.